How does a Medicaid pooled trust work? So Medicaid Pooled Trust is also sometimes referred to as a special needs trust. And it's a way that a person who is over the asset or income limit that's allowed by Medicaid, but who's trying to qualify for Medicaid, can transfer their overage and assets or income into a trust so that they could actually qualify for Medicaid while still having those funds available to them throughout their lifetime to purchase certain necessities that they may need, and even actually things like potentially vacations or caretaker expenses, things not even healthcare related. So the idea behind a pooled trust is if you have assets that are over the $2,000 limit allowed by Medicaid, you may need a way to transfer these assets out of your name and still qualify for Medicaid. A pooled trust doesn't violate gifting rules. So when you give the overage and assets to a pooled trust, it's not considered a gift. So you're not penalized by Medicaid for doing this. Now, the setup of a pooled trust, however, is such that you can't really have a relative or someone be the trustee, the person who manages these assets. They're actually managed by a nonprofit group, and there is an expense associated with the management. Typically, there might be a $500 to $1,000 setup or initiation fee, and then maybe a yearly fee of 2 or 3% of what's in the trust. But how this works or how they're run is you're giving your overage and assets, or you can even do the overage and income, into the pooled trust to be managed with other Medicaid recipients' money so they can be invested in a group and hopefully grow. But yours is set aside in a specific account for you, and it can be used to pay for various things throughout your lifetime. Like I said earlier in the post, it doesn't even have to be just Medicaid or medical related expenses, which is nice because a lot of times people's go-to when there's an overage in income is a qualified income trust or a Miller trust, but there are more restrictions on how that money can be spent. Namely, it does need to be spent for medical or healthcare needs that Medicaid isn't covering for you. Whereas the pooled trust, the funds in the pooled trust, can be used for more than healthcare or medical related expenses. I mentioned a vacation, so this is within reason. The pooled trust is not going to spend money on your family going on a vacation, but the Medicaid recipient may be able to receive their airfare or their hotel or certain, expenses related to the vacation just for themselves. Just like if a Medicaid recipient is potentially living in a home with, let's say, another person, the pooled trust can pay for a portion of the expenses related to the home. If they're not the only one living there, they're not going to pay all of it usually, but any expenses related to the Medicaid recipient or their fair share, if it's two people, half, right, can be paid out of the pooled trust. The idea behind this is to have monies that can actually provide for and help the recipient throughout their life for various needs that they may have. So it's a good way to be able to qualify for Medicaid by not being penalized for having that overage in assets. Now, one thing I do want to mention about pooled trust is whatever money is left over in the pooled trust when the Medicaid recipient passes away is most likely going to go to pay back Medicaid. So Medicaid will keep tabs on what it has spent over the years. When the recipient passes away, the pooled trust, whoever is managing the trust, notifies Medicaid, and they're allowed to turn in a bill for what they have paid throughout the years when the person was on Medicaid. Chances are whatever's in the trust is going to go to pay back Medicaid. There are a few exceptions for this. The most common one is if there's a spouse involved and that spouse also is on Medicaid, needs to go on Medicaid, then you can transfer whatever balance is left in the account to the surviving spouse to be set up in the same way as it was for their spouse when they were alive. So that is an option of where money can go to the family. But the point I'm getting at is these trusts really can't be used as an inheritance tool, which is why this isn't usually the only planning we do. It might be used in conjunction with other planning, because you pretty much have to expect that whatever money you're putting in that trust, although it will be able to benefit the Medicaid recipient throughout their lifetime, and that's very important and it's great. If there's an overage left over, you can't expect that that's going to go to other family members, because most likely it's not. All right, I hope this answers any questions out there about a Medicaid pooled trust, or at least some of the questions. If you have any other questions regarding these or other types of Medicaid trust, or Medicaid in general, estate planning, or anything to do with elder law, don't hesitate to contact our office or atCAUSE Law Office located in Florida, the non-stuffy attorneys. I hope you have a wonderful evening. The link is in the bio.